your background first. Maybe how did you get into the indie hacking life? When did you launch your first product? That kind of thing.
Yeah, sounds great. I really get into indie hacking, I would say 2 years ago. When I first discovered indie hackers, I immediately got addicted to all the positive mindset. People are really engaging and they keep sharing knowledge from how they build products, how they come across obstacles. I find it really interesting to read, and eventually I decided to contribute as well. Although I'm not comfortable in writing, but I just why don't I give a try? And eventually you know doing more and more. I would say I launched my very first tiny projects also almost 2 years ago as well. Now I'm running 4 projects while having a full-time job, and I think the major driving force is really about helping entrepreneurs solve the problems and helping communities grow. And I'm always excited to spend my spare time to build something that I'm really passionate in.
I'm curious, what would you say is your main source of ideas? You mentioned you're part of the indie hacker community, so maybe you use that platform the most, or maybe you are on Twitter.
Yeah, I use Indie Hackers, I use Twitter and LinkedIn the most. And the way I use these platforms are slightly different because I realize the users, the people being active over there, they have a very different demographics as well. They have different needs and wants. So that's why things I say on Twitter versus Indie Hackers might not be the same. And I think it's really important to create content that really tailor for the audience on that specific platform. So I definitely spend some effort to customize my content to hear what people want to listen and eventually contribute my content. Speaking of my source of ideas, I think primarily came from my entrepreneurial journey. And I started my very first company in 2015. And I come across a lot of obstacles and challenges in terms of finding communities, in terms of presenting my projects, in terms of raising capital. And long story short, after having my own company, I eventually joined in the investment side, working at venture capital a couple times, being on the table of being a founder myself, investing, measuring the quality of companies, also running communities as well. So I noticed there's a lot of obstacle in between, especially for early stage founders. So that's why I'm building and executing projects primarily for this purpose, helping entrepreneurs to present their idea, helping entrepreneurs to find the investors or prepare the investments, and eventually run a community as well. So each the 4 projects I'm running at the moment, each project is solving a specific problem.
Okay, so you are solving also your own problems, something you have also experienced, right? That's great. Have you raised funds for your own projects or?
I raised capital for my first startup a couple of years ago, and eventually I decided to move on after a few years. So that's why I joined venture capital to invest companies because I want to know uh, what is the challenges of investing companies. And then it was crazy because when you're on the other side of the table, people come to you, people pitch their idea. You need to learn how to measure, how to identify the right company, the right team, the right people, and what makes a company is investable. It's a completely new knowledge to me when you're on the other side. You need to see it differently. So I think I really enjoy sharing this knowledge because not a lot of people will going through the entrepreneur journey on different angle.
Wow, that's really amazing. Yeah, it's completely different kind of knowledge that you need to have, right? Because on the one side, you have developers trying to come up with ideas and just launching stuff right away when they are ready. And on the other side, you're like, maybe you have to check your business model. You have to check your marketing strategy, your user acquisition, all the other stuff that usually first timers don't think about. And that's really great. Um, which of your projects or products would you say is the one that you're uh, the proudest of?
Hmm, this is tough. I love all my side projects equally, but if I have to pick one, I really enjoy doing virtualmojito.com. It is also the project I make the least revenue
Ah,
out of
really?
all the projects. It's really about a passion projects, and when I first started, it is all about helping people to find alternatives of Zoom, for example. Um, I launched these projects in the hardest times of pandemic, where a lot of startups and communities are transitioning from physical events, physical team meetings, all the way to catch up the speed of all these virtual connectivity. So that's why a lot of people are demanding, okay, we know Zoom, we know Google Meet, but it's not for me. It's not for my use case. Where can I find the right product to run my team, run my own community, and have an engaging events? So I based on these three hypotheses too. Originally, I would just want to maybe put up an article, suggest some tips, and then some of the tools I used before to recommend my friends and communities. And eventually, I got a list of 60 or 70 tools, and I'm like, no, I can't really publish an article with 60 tools. It's kind of stupid. So I decided to build a small site to categorize, filter, and help people navigate these tools easily. So eventually, I built the whole project on Notion with all these
Oh,
interactive
really?
building blocks where people can search and find tools. In the very beginning, it was just a directory like normal, like a lot of people doing list of something, and Virtual Mojito was almost in the same ideas as well. But long story short, I have evolved the project from also interviewing founders, also providing content, and featuring hand-picked, hand-curated virtual events where people should participate. So apart from tools, they can also find information, resources, and learn from founders. And been doing this for a year nonstop, although it's not making a fortune for me. But I really enjoy using these products to have been connected with lots of people.
Yeah, I can see the value of it. I mean, at the very beginning of the pandemic, everyone was coming up with webinars and Zoom calls and random content, virtual content. Every company wanted to be out there, like up in your face, and it was like nobody has time for all of those meetings. No one knows the right time or time zones when they are happening. So I can definitely see how virtual Mojito can be valuable. Yeah, so most of your products are curated lists, so they help developers, founders, or indie hackers save a lot of time, right? That's very valuable. What tech stack or no code tech stack are you using? Is it all built on Notion or are you using something else?
I have a list of maybe 10 or 15 tools I use all the time. When it comes to the landing page, I'm always with Card because of the flexibility and super easy. What you see, what you get, and also there's also a lot of integrations and embeddable features where you can add to make your website more interactive. So most of the websites I put it on Card. And when it comes to managing lists or small automations features, I am always with Airtable because of the dynamic data features. You can also integrate with a lot of other products as well. It helps save me a lot of time to organize my mind. And then the third tool I am really enjoy is really Gumroad. Gumroad help us easily sell our products, monetize, and also measure the performance. So which channels do you get the most audience? How often do people pay? and how you can customize your storefront is just phenomenally easy. So Gumroad is definitely my top choice all the time.
That's great. How often do you check those statistics and data? How often do you analyze everything?
Maybe every week or every 2 weeks at least. Not super frequent, but at least I need a basic understanding of the high level performance of all my projects, because running 4 projects at the same time is really time consuming. So I always rely on data to help me make decisions faster. So I capture traffic on Google Analytics like many people do. I capture data on Gumroad to see my sales. I also track all the call to action buttons and links on Bitly, so I have a basic understanding, at least in terms of traffic, who they are, how often do I get signups, do I get subscriptions, do I get paid. So I think based on these simple metrics already good enough for me to make decision. For example, what features should I add and how often should I update my product, and is there any particular directions I should go for?
That makes sense. That's actually what I was about to ask you. With 4 projects, maintaining 4 projects at the same time, how do you manage time? Is it with this data that you decide, like, okay, this is making the most revenue, this is the most profitable product, I'm gonna keep adding features to this one and maybe let this one sit for a while? How do you decide that?
Definitely, you got the right guess. I literally have a table to remind myself, okay, these projects contribute the highest amount of revenue. Maybe I should spend more time. But at the same time, I will also take a step back. Does it correlate to my effort as well? Because sometimes now when you put more energy in this project, end up it doesn't getting any tractions, and eventually you are taking an imbalance in between. So I update the table maybe every month or every quarter, so I know, okay, maybe this project is catching up, I should spend more time. So I use a handful amount of productivity tools to help me prioritize my work and remind myself, okay, on Monday I need to do this, on Tuesday I need to do that. Um, I because I have a full-time capacity, so when it comes to free side projects, I usually do it in the early morning before I go to work, and after work as well as weekends. I would say maybe every day I spend not more than 2 hours for all my projects combined. I tend to use a theme-based approach, so meaning that on Monday I only do content for all the projects.
Ah,
So I can really
okay.
dedicate myself to write only. On Tuesday, maybe I look at analytics, so look at data on Tuesday. On Wednesday, maybe some website update, quick fix, bug fix, etc. So I have this theme-based approach every day, so I can really dedicate it to a similar set of tools, although they came from different projects. So I can use the same logic to measure my projects as well.
That's a great way to limit and reduce your cognitive load while
Yes,
having
exactly,
4 projects at the same time.
exactly. In the past, I used to, uh, I I think it's really helped me to organize my mind by doing this way. For example, if okay, on Monday I update all the projects, and then eventually this project has this problem, project B has this problem, and then I have to jump so many screens and tabs, and it's really crazy. So I think limit myself to do one thing or two per day really help me speed up the process.
Got it. Do you work on weekends also, or is that like a sacred time for you, your family?
Weekend maybe in the morning. All my side projects I will do it in the early morning. In the afternoon, if I have time, yes, of course. Otherwise, I will spend a lot of time to read as well. So reading newsletters, reading articles on indie hackers, on Hacker News, just to learn and connect. And I found it really helpful to have some time dedicated every week to just focus, read, learn, and jot down everything I would like to replicate.
Yeah, I do the same. On Sundays, I always, the first thing I do is open up TechCrunch. Yeah, it's really interesting to see the new trends. So you mentioned that Virtual Mojito is not your most profitable product. Which one of your four projects is the most profitable?
I think they're pretty equal, the top two. So I have a project called Zlides where I sell pitch deck templates online. So no rocket science. I'm just selling templates that I have built a long time ago, and based on my experience in pitching, reading presentation decks, and also teaching how people make their own presentation as well. So I consulted my knowledge to create a set of templates where people can reuse for investment pitch, competitions, media, uh, and many other use cases as well. So it's been giving me a good amount of side income where I can buy gadgets when I have fancy coffee. I don't have to think. Um, but I
Nice.
also attract a lot of schools and communities where they invite me to conduct workshops about presentation design. So I have been doing this consistently. Maybe every month there will be at least one workshop which I conduct with an organization and they pay me. So I would say there's a two income stream apart from just selling my templates. There's also other income where I need to spend my time teaching, but it's also pretty decent. The other project's been making money is Venture Zlides, which is curated resources of all the tools, articles, tutorials, guidelines, terminologies, and products you need to prepare your startup investment, especially for first time founder. Um, Not much effort, I would say. I update maybe every month. I have a newsletter. Apart from that, I refresh the database from time to time. So far, I have, I think, close to 120 customers. So
Oh, wow. That's great. I'm curious, for all of your projects, do you use the same strategy for user acquisition?
similar, I would say, because I never spend any marketing budget on all these projects. I don't pay
Okay.
for pay ads. In my full time job, I do a lot of pay ads because I understand how much do you need to spend in order to see tractions. How much do you need to spend in order to complete an experiment, and what expected return you need to contribute when you spend marketing dollars on paid channels like Google Ads or Facebook. But in my side projects, I'm like, oh, I'm not really here to make a big fortune. It's really about my passion. I want to solve problems, help people. Whether it's making money, it doesn't really matter. So that's why I never spend marketing budgets. But at the same time, I also want to showcase my projects to as much as people as possible, so that I really dedicate my time to build my credibility and audience on social media channels. So whenever I put something, I get a good amount of organic traffic and engagement as well. Of course, sometimes people converted to become our customers, which is great. So yeah, been writing some tweets, small articles on LinkedIn and indie hackers from time to time. Whenever I see a potential to collaborate with other indie makers or communities, newsletters, I will always reach out as well, and then we find a ways to exchange our partnership. So I think it's all based on organics and free channels.
What social network would you say has brought the most users to your projects?
Um, I think my performance on LinkedIn and Twitter is almost equal. Although they have different audience, I think on my LinkedIn channel I converted slightly more than Twitter. I think it's really because of their needs as well as their spending power is slightly higher. On Twitter, it's nice, no offense, definitely people are really engaging. But at the same time, you can also, if you're also active on Twitter, you might realize a lot of indie makers on Twitter, a lot of local devs on Twitter, which is great. But when you build your project, you need to talk to your customers, not just indie makers fellows. Indie maker fellows, they can build their own. They can find
Yeah.
other alternatives easily. They are not exactly your customers most of the time. It's okay to stay engaged. It's okay to learn from each other. But when it comes to sales, it's a total different story.
Yeah, that's what I actually have found lately. Like, yeah, you get a lot of engagement, you get a lot of likes and retweets from the community, which is awesome because that gets actual potential customers, maybe, but none of them, or almost none of them, convert to paid users. So it's like it's nice to be here, but it's not actually making me a profit at all. So yeah, you have to be on the two fronts of the thing all the time. The next question I had was which product, which project has been the most challenging for you to work on and why?
Good question as well. I started a new project early this year, exactly the first day of 2021.
Oh, nice.
Why? Because every year I will handpick just a random skill I want to learn from scratch. So this year I pick illustration design. So I started learning illustrations start of the day of this year, sketching on paper, converting into digital copy on Sketch, on Figma, and eventually I launched a website called Abstract Lab, where I start selling my creations, so illustration collections. It's really difficult, although I know a bit of design, UI, UX, but when it comes to illustration, it's a completely different game. So there's so many things you have to combine to make an illustrations possible. Your observations, your ability to sketch, the ability to convert from paper to digital. In the very beginning, it was really hard, but then I also got a lot of support recommendations from strong designers. I actively practice on a daily basis, just small things. Even though if I'm busy, I would just sketch randomly. And I start selling in April. Right now, I'm working on the second collections to help people make their own cartoonish avatar. So super excited. I think it's almost ready, probably in a week.
Oh, that's very nice. It's very exciting. Are you launching on Product Hunt?
Probably. We will launch on Portahan. We definitely mention on Indie Hackers and some other designs related communities as well.
I think it's a great time to do it. I've seen a lot of this avatar trend, cartoon character trend. So I think it'll gain a lot of traction very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, finally, what advice would you give to other developers, other engineers, or anyone just looking to get into the indie hacking life?
Probably two advices. First, don't give up too early. I see a lot of people, especially on indie hackers and Twitters, where they're afraid to stumble upon obstacles. And my take is obstacle is part of your success. So take it and make it be part of your learning experience. It's definitely okay to fail. It's definitely okay to fail fast so you learn fast as well. This is something I have embedded in my head all the time. Although I have a lot of ideas, although you receive a lot of maybe controversial or negative feedback, but it's really common, and you should take a step back to understand why people give this sort of feedback, why your ideas couldn't take out this. There must be a reason behind. So the second advice I would give is don't stop learning. So if you're a developer, if you're in tech, there's almost certain that there's some other skills you always need to learn as well. For example, marketing, business, design, and everyone are not born to be an all-rounder entrepreneur. So we are not. We always need to find a way to equip yourself so that you can cover as much as topics and areas as possible. Especially as an indie hacker, sometimes it's really alone. Not much indie hackers like to partner with someone or look for co-founders. People can indie hacking forever is definitely okay, but when it comes to running a business, you might come across a lot of areas where you need to solve yourself. So that having multiple skills on the table will be definitely helpful. For me personally, I actually came from a data science background from school. So when I first graduated, I worked as a data scientist, and eventually I founded my first company in influencers marketing without any marketing knowledge prior to that. But all my co-founders are really support, so I decided to pick up the marketing skills, and eventually I got hooked into marketing. So I transitioned from data science to growth to marketing, and now I'm a head of growth as well. Then I do design. So I think there's no excuse, nothing to stop you from learning new skills.
Definitely. I think at the end, we all become a jack of all trades, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much again for doing this with me. I enjoy talking to you a lot.
No problem.
And let's keep in touch. I want
Yeah,
to hear more
definitely.
about what you're doing and your next products.
Absolutely. Keep me posted.
Definitely. You too. Thank you, man. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.